NFL playoffs are finally solidified. We now know who's in and who's out. But first, we got to discuss Ravens Steelers Sunday night. What the heck happened there? We'll get on into all of it on Beyond the Locker Room next. Another crazy, wild week in the NFL. Final week of the season. Week 18. We are now finally wrapping it up, and my goodness, what a week it was. I think we'll get into the NFL playoff brackets. I'll break my thoughts down on those. Kind of give it a little prognostication of what I see happening in those games. But before I get into that, I said before, we got to get into the Steelers, Ravens. I don't know what to make of it. It was a something show. It was something else. Be honest with you, it's a typical Ravens Steelers game. Hard hitting, lots of punishment going on. Defensive struggle to for the most part, and obviously one of the key plays that looked like it was going to be the key play of the game, going in 10-3. Steelers are on the goal line, 4th down. Tomlin decides to go for it. Quite honestly, Tomlin's not a kind of go-for-it guy. Actually, it's the guy on the other side of the sideline that I would be less shocked if he did that, and Harbaugh. So I was a little surprised that Tomlin didn't take the points and going at 10-6 at halftime, knowing full well you're getting the ball in the third quarter. So that was a bit of an odd choice. And then the play they ran, Gainwell with no chance out there on the edge. Poor Freiermuth has to kind of defend 2 Ravens. So I'm not sure what Arthur Smith was doing, designing that play. I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure if they had time. I can't remember if they had any timeouts left because that was an ongoing theme throughout this game we'll get into. Steelers burning timeouts in this case. Like they got chips, on a Friday night at Vegas. Like it was ridiculous burning timeouts. But they go in at 10-3 halftime. Crowd's kind of grumbling about the offense. They come out like a ball of fire in the third quarter, especially middle of the third quarter, and they put points on the board. They get it back, the 10-10, on a huge play in this case that really turned the game around in my mind. The J.J. Watt, creating the turnover, the pick, the tap pick. He's a special player. He's just a different effect for the Steelers defense. With all due respect, the other guys in the field, he's the one guy on that field defensively that can change a game. And he has a sense of timing, which all the greats do. And that was a huge moment there because he couldn't afford to have Baltimore go up 2 scores. Not considering how pedestrian the offense has been the last few weeks. Metcalf or no Metcalf. But the big score, it set them up for the touchdown. Set them up for the score. A little Hayward, company on that one. It got 10-10. I think that was the score that made it 10-10. They come back again, they drive down again. Once again, the offense stalls, and it gets to be 13-10 Pittsburgh at that point. And then it gets really interesting as we head into the fourth quarter. Oh boy, does it get interesting. As I said before, it was a pretty sleepy game, physical game, as you expect for a game like this, which essentially was a playoff game. 13-10 going into the fourth quarter. And all of a sudden, I literally tweeted out at the end of the third quarter. I said, I don't feel good about this because I don't have faith in this because, I guess to phrase it, and I'm kind of paraphrasing what I said on X. I am scared of the greatness of Lamar and Derek with up 3 in the fourth quarter. Because if you had to look at the teams, they had, you can make argument they have the 2 best players beside the other team, and probably at this stage, Watt, if he's healthy, is the 3rd best player perhaps on the field. He did his part, as I mentioned earlier. But with those guys still having a chance, you just felt like it was a ticking time bomb if you're a Steelers fan. If you're a Ravens fan, I think you're feeling pretty good only down 3 on the road. And as I said before, you got Derek and you got Lamar, and Henry was running pretty decently against the Steelers. So that was also part of my calculation. Lamar hadn't been great, but he could just blow up on you. And boy, did he ever blow up on us. So 13-10, the Steelers all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. Up to now, I've seen this replay about 10 times. Collinsworth did a great job of showing what happened, how they bit on it. Everyone's running, chasing down the line of scrimmage for Lamar, and Lamar throws it across the field to a wide open Zay Flowers. Wide open. And I'm just sitting there going like, are you serious? Are you serious? And just like that, it's 17-13. And I'm like, okay, boy, this doesn't look great. Anyhow, Steelers march down the field, a really nice, drive, mixing up with a little run, a little pass. Overall, I thought it was a nice drive, and then set off with a beautiful, just a beautiful, hitch and go, you want to call it in this case here, a double move in this case by Austin. Just froze the DB. I can't remember who that was, Humphreys, wherever. Just got buckled, man. It was like an ankle breaker. It was like pretty much Steph Curry putting the crossover on you. You're like, "Urgh." And that's pretty much what happened. Austin's wide open. Rodgers has to lay it in the breadbasket for him, and he does, of course. And boom, here we go. Steeler Nation's feeling good. The home crowd's feeling lovely. And all of a sudden, just like that, clickety-click, Barbara Trick, it's 2017 Steelers. And you're feeling, okay, it's about 4 or 5 minutes left to go. We'll see if the Steeler defense can hold, but it's playing well enough that night. Hayward is playing out of his mind that is like, we're looking okay. I still like my chance of being home and up 3 with about less than 5 minutes left to go. And then it happened again. It happened again. I don't know how it happened again, but it happened again. I'll tell you this, Steelers fans, Steeler Nation, they better figure out that situation with that particular type of play with a mobile quarterback, because they're going to face another pretty mobile one. He ain't Lamar Jackson, but he can move pretty well too in C.J. Stroud. We'll get to that in a second. But you can't have everyone chasing like the dog chasing the mailman, or and all of a sudden chasing the bus and then they catch the bus and all of a sudden the ball's not there anymore and it's all the way across the other side of the field. They did the same play again. Zay Flowers even more wide open this time, and boom, once again, clickety click, Barbara Trick, it's a touchdown again, and here we go. Now 24, it's 20 at that point. It's 24. At that point, 24-20. Cool. Now, things really get interesting if it weren't interesting enough already. Steelers have the ball. Now, I'm looking at the clock. At that time when the score happened, it's 2 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in the game. The Steelers have burnt through all their timeouts because the previous possession, they're going back and forth because they had no timeouts left. And they're going back and forth with it because the helmet was giving problems or something like that with the mic. I mean, you're the home team. It was like as if we were playing on the road somewhere. I was like, what the heck's going on here? And we're burning through timeouts. Rodgers yelling at the sideline. I mean, literally, the O coordinator is running out to the field in the huddle to give him it's like something from 1942, giving him the play. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Nonetheless, the key point here is 2:20 left to go in the game, because the only saving grace is that Baltimore scored so quickly. At least the Steelers had essentially a timeout in the bag with the 2-minute warning. That's what I was looking for. Anyways, 2-minute warning, the Steelers got a nice little play, kind of like a little screen pass in this case. I can't remember. I think it's the Austin or Gainwell picks up some nice yards to get the midfield pretty much. I'm like, okay, we're in good shape here. They pick up another pass in this case here. I think they let it run. That was the one play they let run to the 2-minute warning. They get another player after 2-minute warning. I think Warren on the left side. He gets a little action, it might be 7-8 yards, where the case would be. Now they're under 40 yards. It's like, okay, here we go. My apologies. This was the score. My apologies. This is the Austin score. The previous one that got them in 2013 was at the goal line where they're yelling with the timeouts. That got them through on that one. So that was the one that scored on that one. I believe Gainwell scored that touchdown. This is the Austin touchdown. So going by memory, folks, cut me a little slack. I'm not as young as I used to be. But they go through it. For a little hitch and go kind of move, or double move, I should say. Austin goes in, touchdown wide open. It's like 55 seconds left to go in the game. Fantastic play call. Great. Steelers are up again, and now we're up 24. We're up now 26-24. Key number, 26-24. Now, I don't know what I did to this man. I don't know if I said something about his mama or his family. I don't know if I cursed him in this case here and something's going on now where he now has boils. I don't know. I said in the first quarter of the Browns game a week ago, I said, hey, man, he kicked some amazing field goal from something like 50 yards, something like that. I don't know. I said at the time, especially with Watt out, I said, this is the most reliable Steeler this decade, Chris Boswell. Because Boswell's like automatic, man. It's like death and taxes, no problem. Go to find out in this case, he ends up missing an extra point last week, and I think a field goal in Cleveland, which essentially was points that I would say cost us the game, but made life a lot more difficult. Let's put it that way. Here we go. Change scene. Home team. Heinz Field, or whatever the hell they call it these days. Once again, he knows his own field. It's like having a little wedge in this case here. You open up the club face. Boom. It goes wide right like Norwood. I'm like, are you kidding me? So instead of the score being 27-24, it's now 26-24. I'm scratching my head like, oh, Lord, we're giving Lamar now a chance just to get a field goal. Fantastic. Which makes things even worse. The special team said, hey, man, hold my beer. We ain't done just yet. We're going to go on the kickoff now and let the man run back to the 47-yard line, their own 47-yard line. They're essentially at midfield. And I'm like, they literally need 15 yards at worst. Anyhow, Steeler defense, for the most part, came up big in this sequence. But I would say the penalty cost them. Huge penalty for Baltimore that pushed them back. That gave some grace to the Steelers. However, they still ended up completing it. Lamar did some fantastic stuff late again with a little dipsy-do pass, with the touch to get to Isaiah Lively, which made an incredible catch. I will say this, and we're getting this whole sequence here. Ramsey, look, man, this reminds me of guys when they're playing basketball as a late possession in this case, with 5 seconds left to go, and it's the opposite in basketball for a rebound. Just go and grab the ball, guys. Don't try to tap it back. And hey, my European brethren love to do that. Tap it back. We've seen what happened. It cost, in this case, the Sacramento Kings a finals appearance. Back tap to Ori. Do not do that, folks. Grab the ball late and try to get them to foul you. That's the basketball principle of this. The football version of this is late game situation on 4th and 7. You don't need a spectacular interception. Just strip the ball from the man. That's it. But Ramsey went for the pick. And what ended up happening? It gets snatched out of the air by Lively. Lively always seems to be in the middle of these big plays for the Ravens. And they end up getting the first down. They're in field goal range. I'm like, this is it. This is it. The only thing in the back of my mind I was thinking at that time was, we are in Heinz Field and it's a tough place to kick. They're going to need more yardage. This is where Jim Harbaugh and once again, which one is this one? John. I think this one's John. I always get the two of them mixed up which one it is. Harbaugh decides, oh no, I'm just going to play it safe like he's playing college football. We're just going to line up the guy for his favorite hash mark and then kick the field goal. And I'm sitting myself at the time, and I checked the clock. I think it was like 20 seconds. They had the one timeout left because they called the timeout after Lively caught the ball. So that means they have one timeout left. They had the ability with one of the best 3-4 quarterbacks in the league. He's not a game manager, guys. Okay? To me, this is as if you had this is if you had a rookie quarterback and you say, okay, fine. We don't want to cause any issues. We won't get sacked. We don't want anything turned over. We'll just go and just huddle up and just move it and shift it to the right for his favorite spot. You do that for inexperienced guys and rookies and stuff of that nature. Lamar Jackson, a 2-time MVP. What's up with that? You call the timeout, run one more play and try to get something. You could have got something in the middle of the field because you had the other timeout. 8 yards to help the kid. Oh, no. It's as if Harbaugh never played in this stadium before. Oh, no. We're going to give him a 44-yard field goal and try to, to get it done for us to get us in the playoffs. And as they say, the rest is history. It goes wide right as well, too. Honestly, it never had a chance, to be honest with you. The moment it came off his foot, I was like, oh, this is done. That dude was shook. Shook ones, Mob Deep. M-O-B-B-D-E-P-P. It was a wrap. It was a wrap. My goodness. Man, that was an all-time shank. Anyhow, Ravens once again find a way to lose it and, not doing the small things, the small details again. As undisciplined as a team I've seen since the classic Raiders teams that have a ton of talent and find ways to give away games. Oh my gosh. But that's not my concern. That's dealing for the Purple Birds and their fans to deal with that. However, I will make this last point on the Baltimore side of things. I feel for Lamar. I like Lamar. I like what Lamar is about. I like his get down overall. And I tell you, man, I don't think there's a player in any sport, any team sport, where I think his teammates have let him down more than Lamar Jackson. If he told me offseason he wants out, like, I couldn't blame the man. Has Lamar had great playoff games himself? No, but he's never had any moment I can think of off the top of my head, and I'm sure you guys in the comments will tell me if he did. But I don't remember any real, like, oh my gosh, that's the boneheaded moment. You know, he's had some missed passes and stuff like that where it's like, dude, like the KC game, you know, late, where it's like, dude, you gotta make that throw. I get those ones, fine. You know, where it's like, you know, he's being tentative not to run. I'm not sure doing the coaching staff or what, but I'm talking about stuff where it's like INTs, fumbles, brain locks like you won't believe. In the small space of time I'm about to say, the kid here, you know, Loop, misses the kick, the rookie kicker, right? Tucker last year, by the way, missed a whole bunch of kicks in that KC game. People forget that. He missed a big kick in there too. Andrews, we need not say more of what happened with him in the playoffs. And I think the following year, I think he did something again where he dropped the ball in a key situation. We'll go back in this case here to just the beginning of the season. I think it happened twice in 3 games. Derrick Henry, who's not known to be a fumbler, just all of a sudden he comes to Baltimore now. He's got greasy fingers. It never ends, man. Zay Flowers losing his mind and getting like 15-yard penalties to bring back big plays. It's like, I tell you, Lamar, man, God bless you, man. I tell you, man, he's one hell of a quarterback and one hell of a teammate, man. Because I'll tell you this much, he's never thrown one of them dudes I mentioned under the bus. You know, unlike the dude in this case that plays for the team I play for and that I root for, you damn well sure he would have done so. That's for sure. You know AR would have done so in a heartbeat. Anyways, Steelers are through. Hey, happy days are here again. We'll see how long it lasts, but the Steelers are through. All right, let's get into it now. NFL playoffs. The playoffs are here. What a weekend. We got games on Saturday. We have games on Sunday. And the beloved, Pittsburgh Steelers are on Monday night against the Texans. So let's get into some of the matchups. I'm going to start here with the AFC. Buffalo, Jacksonville, in Jacksonville, in the swamp. Buffalo coming in. Look, Buffalo in this case, oh man, 12-5, Jacksonville 13-4. I know right now this is an interesting point actually. This weekend, 4 of the road teams are actually favorites, so this is one of them. Talk about lack of respect for Jacksonville. For my man Dom, man, no love for your team, man. No love for your team. I tell you. And for the prince that was promised, to quote Nick Wright, man, like no respect at all. I'll tell you this much. I like Jacksonville in this game. I like Jacksonville because they have a solid, very good defense. You know, Lawrence, whatever you want to say, he has that it factor in my mind. When the games get big, he's going to play big. And we saw it in his one playoff appearance where he decided to come back from the dead with his team down like 27, 28 points. I think at that time they were San Diego. They might have been already Los Angeles Chargers. So I think, I like Jacksonville at home in this game. They play well at home. It is kind of a rookie head coach. They always got to be concerned about that when it comes to decision making and game management. But I think overall, I like that. I think Josh Allen will be doing Josh Allen things, but I think once again, the 2 things have haunted them all year, which is their receiving core not being good enough to get separation and no one commanding a double team with that Jacksonville secondary. I don't know how that's going to play out. And then the other part of it too is, man, Jacksonville can run the ball. And I tell you right now, that run defense of Buffalo, they ain't saying much. We'll see if they ramp it up in the playoffs, but I don't like that combination one bit. It ends up catching up to you in the postseason in January. And then the other thing too is a theme that's going to go throughout these whole playoff discussions. I always like to look at this too: weather. And usually we look at the weather from a hot weather team going to a cold weather, stadium. It does work in reverse at times. And Buffalo's notorious when they go to say play Miami. They don't fare good down there. Cold weather teams don't like the heat in January either. They ain't built for that, for those hot weather games in this case here. So we'll see how hot it gets. It may not. I heard it's been a cool spell in Florida last week or so. So we'll see. And also weather-wise with rain could be a possibility. We'll see. But I like Jacksonville in this game. Next game. Those Chargers I mentioned before, the 7 seed versus New England. This time is the other way. Hot weather team, friendly confines indoors well too. They're going out to New England in Foxborough in January. Now, historically, the Chargers ironically have been a very good cold weather team in the past. They had some doozy games against the Steelers in this case. You remember where Harbaugh in this case was the quarterback. So, not Harbaugh. Who was it? Not Harbaugh. I'm thinking that with the Colts. Who was the quarterback there? Philip Rivers in this case, I think, for those games. So keep in mind the Chargers, this is a different Chargers team. They do have a heck of a defense. So we'll see. I'm not sold on Herbert. I've never been sold on Herbert. I don't like him in big spots. I don't like him in spots. I know in this case, the second-year guy, first time in the playoffs, he's a cool as a cucumber dude in my mind. I like New England. I like Vrabel in big playoff games. Give me New England. That's the 14-3 Patriots versus 11-6 Chargers. Next, as I mentioned before, the previously mentioned Pittsburgh Steelers playing against the Houston Texans. The Texans had a really interesting game where they pulled it off against the Colts. A very entertaining game. I didn't expect it to be that good, but they're 12-5 versus the 10-7 Pittsburgh Steelers. In this game as well, too, they are also considered to be a favorite in this one. So Houston coming in, I don't blame this one for the guys out in Vegas. I don't blame them giving Houston being the favorite, because the way how the Steelers have been playing all year, I wouldn't blame them, just even what we saw just now on Sunday night. So Houston coming in town. However, Houston, CJ Stroud, I think he's pretty cool customer in the big games as well too, showing back to college. I think Houston's gonna be a tough out. I don't want to say I'm showing bias in this case here. Because Tomlin has not been great in the playoffs. So this is quite a bit of a possibility. That Houston defense is for real. I just like the fact that they got the home field and the weather, man. The weather, folks. And I think that might equalize things. This is going to be a nail biter. Give me the Steelers in a Boswell field goal, game-winning field goal, in a tight one. I don't think a lot of scoring is going on in this game. I think the first one, the 21, wins this one. Who knows? That's the 4 and 5 seed. All right. To the NFC. So, NFC, once again, we got another situation where the lower seed is the favorite. The Rams go into Carolina, and the Carolina get in by the skin of their teeth after getting beat by Tampa Bay in that monsoon. They get some help from their rivals down there in the NFC South. In this case, I think it was the Saints had to win. No, sorry, the Falcons had to win, so they get it done. Rams coming in 12-5. This Rams team is a bit Jekyll and Hyde in my mind. You never know what team you're going to get. Stafford does like the big moments. He puts up big numbers in the big moments, and you're now dealing with once again another young quarterback with their first time. Bryce Young. So we'll see what happens with him in this big spot. The Rams defense is ferocious versus all them boys are be coming after him. I think this is where the size might come into play for him. I can see a lot of batted balls just from scouting. I think the Rams are going to be very, very apt to, and very aware of making sure they get their hands up anytime he's dropping back. So watch for that in this game. I do think, though, the Rams jump on them early. I think they get a bit of the nerves. The Panthers' defense is pretty respectable, but I think the Rams get it done. I think they get this one kind of pulling away on this one. It's been a great season for Carolina. They're building something nice down there, down there in Carolina. But I think this is where Cinderella has to leave the ball, unfortunately for them. Up next, Titans of the Midway. For the third time this season, the number 2 Chicago Bears at 11-6 versus number 7 Green Bay Packers 9-7. I don't think that record's right, because I thought Green Bay had a tie in there, but nonetheless, doesn't matter at this point. It's all academic. Green Bay hasn't won a game pretty much a month. Okay, so their quarterback situation has been dicey. I assume Jordan Love's playing because he was actually on the second of the depth chart on Sunday, so you got to put that and factor it in. They are playing Chicago, but we got 2 cold weather teams. I mean, I'm sure cheeseheads are going to be traveling there to this game. How many tickets they get from FanDuel, we'll see what Chicago does to kind of curb that. But, Caleb, I said it earlier in the podcast earlier this season, man. He's got, just like I mentioned with Trevor, these number one overall picks, man. The reason why they're number one overall picks, one of the reasons why is they have that X factor. And I think Caleb is showing with some of the clutch games he's won this season for the Bears. The Bears can easily be a 500 team, but he's come through big for them, and I think I like him in this spot, man. I like him in this spot. I like Chicago in this spot. This defense is being able to, very good when it comes to takeaway battle. I trust Johnson to run a decent playbook on this one. For I think he's gonna have some tricks there on the Green Bay defense, especially with Parsons out. I think they're susceptible, with their pass rush not being quite the same. I think also on the Green Bay side, though, keep in mind LaFleur, man, hasn't been great, except really the Dallas game with Jordan Love throwing out 50 points on them or something like that. It's been spotty. It's been spotty with LaFleur. So we'll see when it comes to his play calling on the offensive side of the ball. But I like the Bears in a close one, man. They played close games all year. I like the Bears in this one as well too. The monsters of the Midway get through. The final game of the schedule, at least on the brackets in this case here, the San Francisco 49ers, the 6th seed at 12-5, go into the defending champions, Philadelphia Eagles, the 3rd seed at 11-6. I mean, when you talk about another Jekyll and Hyde team, boy, oh boy, Philadelphia is it. I think Philadelphia, has a feel a bit like how you see with basketball teams a lot with this, where they, some champions are able to flip the switch. I feel we might have a flip the switch moment with Philadelphia, folks. I think they're almost a bit like, they're sleeping dogs lie, wherever you want to call it, they're sitting there waiting, and I think they're sitting there in the bushes. And Philadelphia, in my mind, can be very dangerous. I like them at home. Once again, warm weather team coming to a cold weather stadium. I like it with that crowd. I like Philly. The San Francisco offense has not looked great lately. They put up 3 points against my Seahawks, and they look extremely pedestrian. We'll see. Mr. Irrelevant, whatever his nickname is. We're going to find out what he does, see if he can be relevant. The last time he played Philadelphia in a playoff game, he lasted about 2 plays. So we'll see. I pray for his health in this game. That's a better outcome this time. At least he makes it to the finish line. But I don't think he comes up with the dub in this one either. So give me Philadelphia in this one. So to wrap things up, in total, let's see what we have here. I give you in the NFC, Philly, Chi-Town, Rams. On the AFC side, give me Jacks, New England, and a squeaker, the black and gold. So let's leave it there, folks. It's a fun time of the year, man. Playoff time in the NFL, man. It doesn't really get better than this. So I'm looking forward to games. Enjoy the games, guys. It's a lot of fun. If your team wins or lose, man, let's enjoy the moment, man. As always, man, you can find me on X. You can find me on Facebook, as well as Blue Sky. Once again, you can find me here on YouTube. And hey, thanks for all the support, folks. Keep checking it out. If you have a chance, like, comment, and of course, subscribe. Hey, I see a lot of you guys are watching. 2/3 of you guys aren't subscribed though, man. So hey, man, come on board, man. Join the movement. So I enjoy the support, man. So I'll leave it there. As always, guys, keep it locked. Peace.